We also have some wonderful folks visiting with us, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce them to you now. Reintroduce them to you. They were with us a few months ago. First of all, I want you to meet the brains and the beauty behind everything. Her name is Shirley Dobson. Shirley, if you'll stand and let these folks see you. Turn around, wave at them all around. Now, he's not going to let you talk, but how long have you been putting up with him?
58 years.
58 years next month. Not bad. You about got him trained, right? But I'm not going to tell them that he still won't share his food with you not even a French fry. He said if you want it, you order it, right? We're going to work on him today, you know. Shirley's an unbelievable gift to the body of Christ. Not only she worked with Dr. Dobson, she also led the National Day of Prayer for 25 years. And yeah, just a great resource to us. And of course, what a delight it is to have the legend himself, Dr. James Dobson. Come on, Doc. Come up here and let's talk to these folks. And last time, well, first of all, thank you for coming back. Because when you were here last time, the ladies were going on a retreat, and they put me through. Anyway.
I wondered why there's no women here. I thought they didn't like me.
You thought you took it personal. Well, they're
hey,
here
by the way, when you said the beauty and brains, I thought you were going to introduce me.
Yeah.
I just really thought you were going to say something.
We'll work on that. Give her a French fry, would you?
Hey, of all the things you could say in an introduction, why do you tell them I'm selfish with my food?
I'm going to tell them about your cooking in a minute, but we'll get to that. So what brings you, aside from coming back to your newfound favorite church?
Yeah, I told you that.
What brings you back this way?
Well, it's only 2,000 miles. I want to hear you preach. It came with the dances. The dances and the hills, and it's just a pleasure to be. I just love this church. I told you if we lived here, we would attend this church.
Well, I have some real estate agents all around. We can work that out. So every time I see you, and we've been together off and on past 4 years, you guys are always either coming from someplace or on your way to someplace. And so I know you've been doing that the last 3 months. So tell us in the last 3 months what you've done that really excites you.
Well, we have really been on the move. Shirley was unable to go with me, but I went to Israel for a week, and that was one of the highlights of my life. If you all haven't been there, I mean, it is really something to see. We were there 25 years ago, and it's just night and day what's taking place.
Did you feel safe?
Oh, absolutely safe, yes. And they gave us, we were there as guests of the Israeli government. They provided 8 helicopters.
I guess you did feel safe.
Yeah. 8 helicopters for our group. And we toured Israel from the air, and just, it was a wonderful experience. But the highlight of it all was last weekend, because we had our grandkids with us. How many of you all have grandkids? Have you noticed they'll wear you out? They absolutely wear you out.
There's mine waving at me right now.
We love them, but our grandkids, I don't know about yours, but ours won't play by themselves. They want you to play with them. And they want you to figure out what to do to make them have a good time. And after about 4 hours of that, you can kind of get worn down. You know, our 4-year-old, several years ago, a 4-year-old was there, and he came in for the weekend, and we worked hard to make him have a good time. I mean, tell you, and we started running out of things. You not only have to play with them, you have to figure out what game comes next.
Right.
And about 4 hours in, we were running out of anything to do. And so I got Lincoln, and I said, Lincoln, we're going to do something different. Shirley had a little Lowe's mailbox on a post, and just a decorative thing. It had a little brass door on it. And I said, I'm going to write a letter to, he calls her May May. We're going to write a letter to May May, and you take it to her and she'll read it. So I pretended to be writing. And I put the message in there, and he ran to her, and she read it, and she wrote me one back. And they were all phony, you know, we're just, and finally that got old, and so I said, oh, no. And he said, what? I said, it says here you were a bad boy today. And he said, and I said, what happened? He said, Mama spanked me. And I said, oh, that's terrible. Then what happened? He said, I got a new attitude.
Well, I know some folks that need spank. No. So when you were here last time, the McGuires were with us.
Yes.
And Barry preached. And I understand that your organization, Family Talk, actually aired that service on your program this week.
Thursday and Friday of this week, we aired that recording. He's a great speaker,
right,
as you know. We're on 1,300 stations. And
wow.
So, by the way, none of them are here.
Really?
Yeah, fix that for me, will you? I mean, we ought to be heard here. Somebody here's got some influence.
Any WLFJ folks around here? So I will work on that.
Yeah, please do.
We'll work on that. 1,300 stations. Now, just so you know, most of us grew up and it was focused on the family. It is now Family Talk. That is a different entity and a different organization.
Yeah.
You're on 1,300 radio stations. You're also podcast and webcast and Facebook.
Internet. Yeah, a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's a smart lady.
Thank you.
So we can all tune in there. All right, let's go to politics for a few minutes. You have sat as advisor to presidents going back 30 years. Who have you been an advisor for?
Five
sitting presidents.
That started Jimmy Carter, and then Ronald Reagan. I worked with him for 5 years, and then the two Bushes, and now Trump.
Okay.
And we're going to be there shortly, as a matter of fact.
You said last time Ronald Reagan was your favorite.
No question.
Tell us about that relationship.
My goodness, did we talk about that last time?
Well, you just said he was your favorite.
Yeah.
How did you meet him? How did that come about? What was that all?
That was really an exciting thing for us because it was early on. It was 1980. And for some reason, I got 10 tickets to the inauguration. And we were thrilled to death. And we brought 4 couples with us. The 10 of us went. And everybody was excited about that. At least people I care about were thrilled. There were banners all over town saying "New Beginning," and the Israelis released the hostages. It was just an unbelievable day. But we all had one goal, one objective, and that was to get a glimpse from afar of Ronald Reagan. And so we went through the ceremony, the inaugural ceremony. And then that night we were at the inaugural ball, and then it was absolutely jammed. You could not move. And there were 9 inaugural balls, and we were at the 9th one, so it was 12 o'clock at night. And
you were young then.
I was very young, yeah. And we were, I turned to my friend, and I said, you know, it was a very cold night. We had big coats on, and tuxes and everything. And I said, we better go get our coats, because once Reagan shows up, there's going to be a mad rush to get coats. So we went to get our coats, and we left the rest of the group. And the doors swung open, and in came the Secret Service, about 20 of them running in. I looked at my friend, he looked at me, and I said, why not? They ran into a stairway, and we ran with them.
You were young then.
And you know, the Secret Service never looks behind.
Right.
They always look at what's coming. And so we were running with him. I'm 6'2", he was 6'5", and we looked like one of them. And they didn't recognize us, and we went upstairs, out a door, and I ran straight into Ronald Reagan. I was 3 feet away from him. My heart was about to jump out of my chest because I knew I shouldn't be there. And nobody looked at us. We were just, I don't know if they didn't know each other or what, but nobody looked at us. I'm standing, he's right here and I'm standing there on inaugural night. It was an unbelievable thing. And about that time, they introduced him and Nancy, and the room was jammed, and there were blue uniformed police that had cordoned off a walkway to the platform. They walked with the Secret Service, they walked to the platform. I looked at my friend, he looked at me, and I said, why not?
Kids, don't listen to this.
Don't try this at home.
Right.
We followed them to the platform. We got to the platform, they went on up. I looked at my friend, he looked at me, and we said no. And we were standing there, we had these coats over our arm. All of a sudden, a guy on the platform who was looking over the crowd looked down there and said, I don't know those people. We were right here, and they were there.
Wow.
And he panicked, man. He didn't know what was under those coats.
Right.
And he came running down and nearly pushed me down. I mean, it's the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. I could have been I could have been killed. They were all carrying big rifles.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any right to be there. And
why not?
Believe it or not, why not? They allowed us to go to the end of the line and stand there. And he walked right into us.
Wow.
And 3 years later, I was sitting by Ronald Reagan in the cabinet room of the White House, advising him on how to make families stronger.
Wow.
And I worked with him for 5 years after that. Tell me the Lord didn't have something in mind there. So he could have gotten me killed, is what he could have.
Well, I may get you in trouble now. So you are now serving as spiritual advisor to President Trump.
One of them.
One of the
Yeah.
spiritual advisors, President Trump. I understand that you and Shirley are going back to the White House.
This is, I lived an unbelievable life. Our 58th wedding anniversary is August 27th.
Oh, that's our wedding anniversary.
Really?
Can we go? Why not? We'll go with you.
Why not? For our anniversary, we're going to the White House for dinner.
Wow.
How's that for an
That's
anniversary?
not
thing?
bad. That's
And
not bad.
It's just coincidence, but it happened that way.
I wouldn't tell her that. I'd say, look, guess what I've worked out for you, baby.
I called Donald.
Yeah.
I said, Donald, you know.
said Donald, yeah. So you've met with him. You're going back to meet with him again. Here's a loaded question. Do you think President Trump is a believer?
You know, only Jesus knows that. Only the Lord knows that. And I don't know. When he was, I voted for him. I promoted his candidacy because there's two choices and I didn't like the other one. And
Just say what you feel, Doc. Don't worry about it. I'll clean up the mess next week. Don't worry about it.
Christianity Today asked for an article about him, and I said, this is a flawed vessel.
Yeah.
He is. He's not a perfect man, and I'm not either, and none of us is perfect. And I believe in forgiveness, and I believe in reconciliation. I believe the Lord can clean up a person's heart. Whether he's done that or not, I don't know. He calls himself a Christian. But regardless of that, he made a lot of promises to evangelicals.
Right.
A lot of them. He has kept every single one of them.
It's true. It's true. Very
And,
true.
So
Very true.
we're coming up on a midterm election,
Right.
and it's not about the president this time. It's about whether or not he is going to be able to continue to appoint godly, conservative, constitutionalist, and originalist to the court.
To the courts.
And I'm telling you, he has done what they don't put in the papers. 41 members 41 people have been appointed to the judiciary since he's been there. There are 81 others that have been approved and are, it looks like, going to be confirmed.
Federal judges.
And that's going to change this country if he's given an opportunity to do it, because these people, you won't believe who he has on that list. There is they're people that we know to be godly individuals. And the judiciary has almost destroyed this nation. I worry more about that than anything else.
Right.
And especially the Supreme Court. So this election is a biggie. Yeah.
I know that you gave counsel regarding Judge Gorsuch. How about Judge Kavanaugh? How are you feeling about that?
You know, I was very disappointed by that selection because I had somebody else in mind, and he didn't call. You know, I waited for the president to call. He didn't ask.
Okay.
But that he would not have been my first choice, and I was disappointed. But since then, I've talked to a lot of people who know him, both inside and outside the White House, and I think he's a good man. I think he is going to support the Constitution. And it's what's called an originalist.
Right.
And he may disappoint us at times, but boy, he's a whole lot better than what we've had. And so I do hope that he's confirmed. But the person that I wanted happened to be a woman, and she may get her chance yet.
Yeah. That makes the midterm election
that makes
much
it
more
even more important.
Well, if it makes you feel better, he didn't call me either about the appointment. So
what a disappointment.
Yeah. So overall, how are you
what
feeling?
What would you have said, sir?
I like the lady that you like too. What? Why is that funny? I think any woman that can be a federal judge and have 7 children, she got something going on.
She's got a deep commitment to Christ.
Yeah,
she
I
really
understand
does.
that.
She's Catholic, but she's in a praise and worship program, and people who know her were really pulling
Speak
for
well
her.
of her. How do you feel about the country as a whole right now? Are optimistic, pessimistic? Wait and see.
You know, I've been at this a long, long time, and I have been disappointed over and over and over again by losses in the courts, both Supreme Court and downward. And they've almost ruined us. You know, in the late 1970s, that there was a decision, a bunch of them, that indicated that a 13-year-old girl who is sometimes a lady and sometimes a child can find herself pregnant and go tell a school teacher, and that they can transport her to an abortion clinic where she has a procedure that she will remember the rest of her life and regret it probably. And she may have complications from that. She goes home that night and nobody knows about it. The court said the parents don't have to be informed. That just is breathtaking to me. There have been decisions like that through the years. We have a chance now to change that.
For that generation.
For that generation.
Yeah.
And I am grateful for it. So and especially if the Supreme Court changes, that will change your life and my life. This is no small thing.
Right.
So I'm feeling a lot better about it. Yeah.
Very good. 2 or 3 more questions because I don't want them walking out while I'm preaching. It works on mine. But you're here. When am I going to have James Dobson back again? 3 months from now, I'm going to have you back again.
Well, it's getting to be a habit.
It is getting to be a habit. So anyone who's ever listened to Dr. Dobson on the radio, you've heard him talk so affectionately about his father. And we had a great conversation this week about the influence of fathers and the impact it makes. But you didn't say a lot about your mom. So come on, you got all these ladies in here. What's the deal?
Being a guy, you talk about your dad. But I shortchanged my mother because she was a great mother and a great lady. And the truth of the matter is, I stole most of her ideas for Dare to Discipline.
Really?
That's really, that book
was your mom.
that
You
was
were
her
the
mom.
strong-willed child.
I was not. I was a sweetheart. I mean, I was not. But my mother was an absolutely wonderful disciplinarian. She knew about love and control, and I observed those things and wrote about them in the book. And you know where she got it? She got it from her mother.
Wow.
You know where she got it?
From her mother?
From her mother. It used to be transmitted generation to generation to generation. My mother didn't read it in a book. I hadn't written it yet to start with, but she didn't get it from a book, and neither did her mother and grandmother and my great-grandmother. They simply knew what the Bible had to say about child rearing, and it was transmitted. We've lost that now.
Yeah.
We've severed that source of information. Now people are looking to, psychologists and people who write books and things like that. And they have lost the foundation of love and control. And on the cover of my first book is a little fulcrum like this, a little scale. It's got love and control.
Yeah.
You tip that either direction and you get into trouble. Wow. Getting that balance, my mother understood that. And she was a great lady. Do we have time for me to tell you one story?
Yeah, we got time to tell 100 stories.
I could say...
As long as I get an offering, I'm good.
I could say anything to my mom. I could tell her you weren't fair with me. I could say you embarrassed me in front of my friends. And if I said it in a respectful manner, she'd sit down and talk to me about it. And there was no retribution for it. But she was not about to take back talk and sassiness, because she knew sassiness is a weapon of defense, of attack.
Really?
And she wasn't going to take it. And I'll never forget the night I learned that.
Oh, now you got to tell us. We got time.
I was in the room, and she said something that irritated me, and I really let her have it.
How old were you?
I was about 8, I think.
Wow.
And I remember thinking I probably shouldn't have said that. And I backed up to see what she's going to do about it. She reached out to what she could get, put her hands on, and landed on a girdle. Those were the days when a girdle was a weapon. It weighed about 16 pounds, and it had all these straps and everything.
Metal hooks.
I can still hear it coming. She caught me across the chest, and all those straps came wrapping around. I got a whole spanking with one blow. But I learned not to sass my mom.
Did you ever do it again?
Never, man. I'm dumb, but I'm not stupid. Anyway,
That's great.
What's that got to do with Sunday morning?
No, that's great. That's great. So you have authored over 30 books, tens of thousands of programs on the radio, seminars, conferences. But to the books particularly, what's the most important thing you have written in your mind?
Why don't we end on this?
I'm not through. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's very clear in my mind. All of my books have pointed toward something that I said in most of those books. But in my most recent book, which is called Legacy, The Greatest Gift, it's summarized in there as the most important message I came to deliver.
Okay.
What I care about more than anything else. And it has to do with transmitting your faith, your salvation to your children. That is job one. And if you're too busy and too distracted and too involved in building some big business or something, and you don't notice the kids are around your feet, and you don't get around to emphasizing what really matters, because they can tell, man.
Sure.
They know when it's just small talk or whether you really mean it. If you don't get that job done, think about this. You'll never see them again in eternity.
Right.
You talk about a priority. This is the most important thing. And Deuteronomy 6 puts it in such a way. It calls it not a suggestion. It calls it a commandment.
Right.
Because he was speaking for the last time. He was about to die, and he was speaking to the children of Israel who were going to take over the promised land. And Moses is about to go up and be buried by the Lord. And when a man's about to die, he doesn't waste words.
Right.
And so he's speaking to the people, and he said to them, when you get up in the morning, this is the first thing you think about. You talk about the Lord. You tell him the great things he's done.
Right.
And during the day, it's not now I lay me down to sleep. It's not some little catchphrase. You tell your children all day long. When you go out for a walk, you write it on your forehead, put it on your wrist,
right.
You put it on the doorpost of your house, because you are saying, you want to know what I really care about? This is what I care about, getting to know Jesus. And I tried to say that in that book.
Well, you said it in all your books. Matter of fact, that was the lead in, and it ties to the last thing I was going to say. We've had the privilege to be with you on certain occasions over the past few years, and it's always amazing to see how many people recognize him. I'm from professional athletes who look at him and marvel and say, "You're James Dobson." He hadn't figured that out yet. to politicians and senators and congressmen, and I've watched them all come up and talk to you. And then I've watched the average person like us on the street come up in the restaurant and interrupt. You're always so gracious, and they always tell you how your ministry and Shirley's ministries influenced them in their home. And you always ask them this question. This is the question you ask, and I've heard you ask it several times. Do your children love the Lord?
Because that's really, when it comes down to it, everything else is going to burn. There's really nothing else that makes much sense.
Nothing else matters.
And when you lie on your deathbed and you're looking back over your years, you won't remember the plaques on the wall,
right.
The degrees you got, or what's on a building, or what you did with your life. What you will remember most, when it really comes down to making that journey, is who you loved and who loved you and what you did together in the service of the Lord.
Yeah.
It all comes down to that. If that's true, why don't we live by it? You got your kids here today. What a marvelous thing. I told you as we were coming in that my dad always said, when something spiritual happens with my son, I want to be there. Yeah. And bringing them into the service like that, that's a way of saying, this is what we care about here.
This is what we care about.
And that's what I'm praying about.
Would you do us the honor? Would you have prayer for families?
Oh, my. Heavenly Father, this is not an easy time to raise children. The culture is stacked against us, and it is doing everything it can to warp them and twist them and mold them into the world's value system. And Lord, I pray for the parents who are here, who are doing the very best they can to live by that standard and to get their children safely into the hands of Jesus. Lord, I pray that this will be uppermost in everyone's mind. My dad prayed for me probably every day of my life. He prayed for me. And above all else, that's what we need to be doing, because you can't control the circumstances, and we know we need help. I pray for the families who are here to give that priority uppermost position in their lives, and that you would help them do it. Lord, sometimes the public schools will contradict what we believe, And certainly Hollywood wants to just completely take over their minds, and the rest of the internet and all the influences that are there. I just pray for each family here today, including those that have gone through some very difficult times. Yes. Some of them are right now. Yes. Bless the institution of the family in this church, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. James Dobson.